The highest level of unemployment in the world is inside Gaza. Because they're not going to be employed. Where are you going to find employment? The highest level of literacy, or one of the highest, is inside Gaza, by the way. They're very educated. The highest concentration of huffaz of Quran in the world inside Gaza. Alhamdulillah, the highest concentration of huffaz inside Gaza. But of the lowest quality of life. One point that I save to the very end, because it's the most painful for me and all of us. One point that I save for the very end. For some bizarre reason, our country has always been the primary supporter of Israel. This has not been the case since 1947. In 1947-48, the very first administrations, they tried to be fair. They tried to be both pro-Arab, pro-Palestinian, they tried to be fair. But within the early 50s, that changed completely. And since the 50s and 60s, our country of America has been the one and only country that has acted more in the interest of Israel than even its own interests. And this is something very strange. And more Americans are realizing this. For some reason, we don't understand why. There are reasons, we'll explain them. We seem to be more concerned about the safety of that country than our own country. We're willing to go to war for that country. We're willing to get billions of people angry for that country. Collectively, since World War II, America has given more than $250 billion in aid to that country. We could have solved our healthcare crises in 1 second. We could have given universal healthcare to every American. We could have solved homelessness 10 times over. Not a single homeless person will be in America if we spent that tax dollar over here. For some weird reason, we just want to send money there. Not only do we send money there, we give them grants so that they can purchase our military with the money we have given them. Unbelievable. Circularity here. We pay them the money they're going to use to purchase our military weapons. Unbelievable. No other military in the world has the type of relationship that Israel does with America. We sell them the best weapons at the most discounted rates. We give them grants to purchase these weapons. We give them immunity from prosecution as they use those weapons. We can get as angry as we want at other people. Those 2,000-pound bombs that are dropped, 2-ton, those bombs that are dropped, they're American bombs. So I'm asking myself, and we should all ask ourselves, if we have the crowd, and if we have the truth, and if we have simple common facts, forget religion, forget history, forget politics, tell your fellow Americans, why are we giving $250 billion to another country? Simple as that. Can't we use this money ourselves? American taxes for American people. That's the slogan we all should start. The truth is with us. Images are with us. The people are with us. Common sense is with us. Then why is the government not with us? 2 reasons. Number 1, the powerful impact of the law. Because in the end of the day, you have a 400,000 people. He has $400,000 in the bank account. Guys, I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. Our president is the #1 recipient of AIPAC. $4.2 million over the course of his presidency. Now, I'm sorry, but facts are facts. You don't think those 4.2 million is going to influence how he votes? I mean, let's just be real here. Number 2 reason about why our country is so fanatically, illogically, irrationally in support of Israel goes back to a misunderstanding of Christianity. This is a bit awkward, a bit technical, bear with me. Evangelicals believe that Jesus is going to come back. And when he comes back, he's going to establish heaven on earth, and heaven, the rapture will take place, not the rapture, the rapture is going to take place. And the elect, the chosen, are going to be entering heaven. So they want to expedite the return of Jesus. Clear? They want him to come back. Okay. What has this got to do with Israel? Evangelicals believe the main catalyst for the return of Jesus is going to be the Jewish people conglomerating in the land of their forefathers. This is not explicit in the Bible, but it is modern sentiment of evangelicals, evangelical Christians. And as you know, evangelical Christians are the largest and most powerful body of Christians in America. Evangelicals believe if Jewish people come together in the land of Israel, then and only then Jesus will come. Now, this is where it gets really weird. This gets really weird. You guys have to listen to this. And wallahi, I'm not making fun. I'm not cracking a joke. I'm being factual here. Evangelicals believe one of the first things Jesus is going to do is to get rid of the people who attempted to kill him and to annihilate them. And that's who? So they believe his coming is the end of the Jewish race. Do you understand the oxymoron? Do you understand the irony here? That we want to expedite the coming of Jesus Christ, who's going to get rid of all of you people. So, oh, you people, here's $1 million, take it. Those people understand fully what these people believe. And they're happily taking the billions of dollars. Do you understand the irony here, right? I actually spoke with one of the main rabbis in this regard. I said, I don't understand. This is like 10 years ago. I said, I don't understand. Excuse me for my naivety. This is how I began. Excuse me for my naivety. But you do realize the evangelicals don't love you. You do realize that evangelicals believe that Jesus' return is your end. He said, yeah, of course. I said, but I mean, how could you just take money and smile and whatnot? They want you gone. They think you're going to be gone. He just laughed and said, well, I mean, that's their belief. We'll take the money, let them believe what they want to believe. In 1948, as we said, they attacked, but this was not enough. In 1967, the second war occurred, the 6-Day War. And the 6-Day War was instigated by Gamal Abdel Nasser, by Egypt, but it turned out to be a massive failure. And the Israelis launched a vicious counteroffensive in which American artillery, American ships, and British ships got involved. A lot of people don't know this, but this is a fact here. American and British systems, they didn't send troops, but air and navy and weaponry and technology. Again, Americans did not send troops in 1967, but Americans helped with the infrastructure, they helped with the bombs, they helped with the planes, they helped with the Navy frigates, and they helped with technology, radars. When the West got involved and supported Israel, Israel won a massive victory from their side in 1967, and they acquired the entirety of the West Bank, and not only Gaza Strip, but in fact they invaded into Egypt and they occupied the entire Sinai Peninsula. So from 78%, they basically acquired 100% illegally. More than 120%, because they got all of Sinai. They also invaded Jerusalem by tanks. They marched into Masjid al-Aqsa with their submachine guns, Uzi submachine gun, that much I'm positive. Their tanks rolled into the complex of Aqsa, and they conquered Masjid al-Aqsa by force. This is 1967. Jerusalem then came under their control. The West Bank came under their control. Gaza came under their control. All of this, the United Nations said, is illegal. They said it is occupied territories, but nobody cared. To this day, the United Nations calls these territories occupied, but nobody cares. Technically, this was never given to them in the first place. First Intifada takes place in 87. There are attempts for reconciliation. Our own Bill Clinton tries to get involved. Beforehand, Jimmy Carter tried to get involved. Nothing really comes to fruition. Why? Because every single time the Palestinians are offered nothing other than verbal promises. The Palestinians are never given enough to make it worth their while. You can't offer somebody to be in prison for the rest of their lives and they're going to accept that. Every single offer that the Palestinians have been made has never given them the right of conducting their own polls, conducting their own governments, running their own affairs. It's always going to be controlled by the Israelis. How can any civilization accept this? So when they turn down the peace treaties, as the saying goes, they're not turning down peace, they're turning down prison. They're turning down life sentences. Why would anybody accept that? The Palestinians have never been given a fair deal in the first place by the superpowers. So when push is going to come to shove, obviously the people are going to revolt in a harsher manner. You know the famous images that you see, children throwing rocks and stones. This is the iconic images. This is what they have to fight. Why did they throw rocks and stones? That's all they have. That's all they have. It's a demonstration of their power. You're not going to conquer me, regardless of what weaponry you have. And so, in response to this, the Israelis decided to build a physical wall. The Israelis decided to literally build a wall to house to imprison millions of people, in particular in Gaza and in portions of the West Bank. These walls are the largest such structures in the world. 25 to 35 foot high, massive concrete walls, on top of which are barbed wire, armed with guards at every portion and site. It's something out of some type of science fiction dystopian movie. It's something out of East Berlin, West Berlin type of stuff. But it's still happening to this day. And that's why every single reputable body has criticized the building of this wall. Jimmy Carter, our president himself, called it the largest open-air prison in the world. You have to see it to understand what this wall is. Literally, look at these types of pictures. Literally, on one side, you have slums. You have the highest density of humanity on earth, that's Gaza. Gaza is the highest occupied, the greatest density of mankind. Where are they going to go? Where are they going to build? So there's forced to live there. And on the other side, you have almost like California-style mini villas and cities. In the middle of the desert, you have greenery. You have houses. You have parks. And unfortunately, to make matters even worse, so before I get there, look at this, the Google image, West Bank city before the wall, the same city after a wall. It's literally trapped in prison. You cannot go to work without special permits. If you are between the ages of 18 to 40, you will not get a permit. Young men are not given permits to work. How do you think a young man is going to live when he's not allowed to work? How do you think a young man is going to find dignity, get married, have children when you've deprived him of work? What's going to happen to a civilization that doesn't have clean water, doesn't have hospitals, doesn't have schools? This is the reality of life for Palestine. Settlements are groups of people literally walking in and claiming a piece of land as their own without payment, without negotiation, at times kicking people out, and building structures and farms. And the Palestinians cannot fight back without massacres. If you dare hit or kill one of them, the army will come in and kill your whole family. What are you going to do? Settlements are illegal from every single aspect. Even the Israeli Supreme Court, unbelievably, said settlements are illegal. But the Supreme Court saying it and the army doing something about it are two different things. Settlements are extremely popular by Zionists. And it's an emotional aspect because for them, from their perspective, a settler is a mujahid. From their perspective, a settler is sacrificing their safety and comfort and being threatened by the Palestinians to claim the land God has given them. From their perspective, settlers are mujahideen, literally. How dare you criticize a mujahid? So even the army does not get involved in settlers. Really, one wall separates. If this is not apartheid, what is apartheid? Apartheid is to treat a person differently because of the color of their skin or their ethnicity. Israel is an apartheid state. We need to say this bluntly. There is no remaining apartheid state in the world other than Israel. If you are of a certain background, you will be welcomed into Israel and given a passport. And you have the right to march into a territory and claim it as yours for free. And if you are Arab, Palestinian, Christian, Muslim, and your heritage is 2,000, 3,000 years old, you will be allowed to be kicked out, expelled, live behind a wall. You will not have any rights there. If this is not apartheid, what is apartheid? And can claim. And I say this because the claim that is made by many modern Israelis and many people of the Jewish faith, that this land was an empty land and we just happened to come across it and we discovered it, this is patently false, and no academic says this. This is a myth that is taught to little children. It's like Santa Claus and other myths. It has no truth to it. So pre-history, very briefly, this land has been occupied and inhabited by more than a dozen different dynasties throughout history. More than a dozen different civilizations have come and gone and left their impact. For a short period of time, probably around 300-400 years, one of these dozen dynasties, one of these dozen civilizations was the civilization and the dynasty of none other than Dawood, King David. Dawood, alayhi salam, ruled over this region, and he had control over this region for around 300-400 years. Him and his descendants had it. Realize, before him were other people, and after him were other people. So the claim that just because, this group says, just because they ruled it for this 300, this means all that happened before and after should be negated, this is obviously, once again, illogical. Umar ibn al-Khattab conquered Masjid al-Aqsa when the Romans were ruling it. He was the first person to allow the Jewish people return, because the Christians had banned them from coming back. He was the one who allowed the first synagogue to be built since the destruction of the first temple. They were not allowed to build a synagogue since the second temple. They were not allowed to build a synagogue. After 500, 400 years, Umar al-Khattab said, no, they are Ahli Kitab, and Allah has commanded us, the Ahli Kitab have these rights. So the first synagogue to ever be built in Jerusalem after the temple was under the time of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. Our version of tolerance is very different than their version. Enter the new ideology. This ideology ruined everything. This ideology corrupted the reality of Jewish, Muslim, Christian relationship. Up until 1900, memorize this, there was not a single Muslim Jewish war or uprising or massacre, not one. Those who claim, oh, Jews and Arabs, Jews and Muslims have always been at war, are telling you lies. Whenever Christians persecuted Jewish people, we Muslims welcomed them. We never had a problem with Jewish people for the bulk of our history until the last 50 years, until the last 80 years. Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi's personal physician was Moses Maimonides, a Jewish physician. Salah ad-Din Ayyubi, during the Crusades, who's his physician? A Jewish person. There was no concept of Jewish-Muslim conflict. Fact of the matter is, if you remove Zionism, you remove the state of Israel, Jewish theology, Jewish culture, Jewish law is very similar to Islamic law and Islamic culture. In World War I. And in World War I, Britain agrees to the Zionist demand. Why Britain? Because Britain knows it's going to win, or it thought it would win, and it did win. And Britain realized it would have power over these regions. So England unilaterally said, if you help us, we promise you, we are going to gift you a land, a country, smack in the middle of current Palestine, which will be called Israel. That's your ancestral home. This promise is called the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration of 1917 was a secret agreement. Now it is public. We have the original document. Google it, you'll find it online. The Balfour Declaration was a promise between England and the Zionist parties of Europe to give them a land in Palestine. Can you believe in 1920, fundraisers are taking place in America and Europe to fund settlers to purchase land in Palestine? Can you imagine in Cincinnati having a fundraiser, right? And what is the funds going to be used for? people you have no idea who they are. They're going to migrate to a new land. Your money will be used to purchase their house. Now, fair and square, they didn't do anything illegal, at least this group. But how can local Muslims compete with the dollar and the pound in 1920? Think about it. Your house is worth 100,000. These guys say, here's $1 million, just quietly leave. In the 1920s, we didn't understand what is happening. So people, and so this is the problem. Some of this is legally acquired. Some of this is legal. Because in the end of the day, if they sold their land, they sold their land. So there is an element of unfairness, gray area, unethical, but technically legal.